We are less than a week away from the NFL draft, but before we start talking about our incoming rookie landing spots, now is the perfect time to talk about our 2026 sophomores. Who are the players prepared to make the biggest leap in year two? Now, you do have to have something to leap from, so sorry, guys like Caleb Johnson. You don't count. If a veteran already came in and took your job, sorry, you are off the list. If you're a backup, you're not included. We are talking big names here. Are we buying or selling big leaps in year two? Let's start off with quarterbacks. The guy from this list that profiles as the most logical year two leap for us to buy into is Cam Ward. The big reason for that is an upgrade in coaching. Coaches matter even more so for quarterbacks. Offensive coordinators matter. It is make or break, and Cam Ward was not exactly dealt the best hand as a rookie. Now he gets a clear upgrade in Brian Daboll, and obviously, Brian Daboll's tenure in New York as a head coach was interesting, but as an offensive coordinator, I do have faith in both his scheme and his ability to develop a quarterback. Ward's 2025 was interesting. He was without a wide receiver one for the entire season because even when Calvin Ridley was healthy, it was blatantly clear he was over the hill. His young receivers love them. They developed as the season went on, but none of them is truly a actual wide receiver one. Despite that, Cam Ward's season wasn't actually that bad. He had over 3,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns. Most of that actually came in the second half of the season. After the Titans' bye week in week 10, despite having a rather difficult defensive schedule, he had 12 total touchdowns and just 1 interception. That was against teams like Houston, Seattle, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Kansas City. That's extremely promising. The only real issue I see is that it's become more and more apparent that the Titans are likely adding Jeremiah Love, which is not an issue. But I would just like them to add Cardinal Tate for Ward's sake, right? It would make more logical sense. But I do like this receiving class, so there will be some nice options for them to take in the second round as well. As long as they add a receiver with size and aren't relying on Wan'Dale Robinson, love him, sorry, aren't relying on him to be their wide receiver one, I am absolutely buying into a leap in year two for Cam Ward. The leap that I am not buying into, unfortunately, is Jaxson Dart. We talked about this in my rankings video regarding players that I am lower on consensus if you want a more in-depth talk. But in short, it has nothing to do with Jaxson Dart. The fact is that he has the exact opposite problem of Cam Ward. Dart's new offensive coordinator is Matt Nagy. When we look back at Brian Daboll, aside from trying to push the kid through a concussion, allegedly, there was nice development of Dart that should carry over into year two, but I have zero faith that Matt Nagy will not annihilate that process. Hopefully, Dart's talent can push through the Matt Nagy experience. I just, unfortunately, don't trust it. I do not think we will see a regression in year two for Dart, but unfortunately, I think we might see more of the same and just some continued inconsistency rather than a leap. Tyler Shough is interesting because he'll continue through the same system, no major changes, and pretty much just the addition of additional weapons. So no major issues, really. So all things in theory should point to a year two leap for him. It was an excellent overall debut from Tyler Shough after starting off the season behind Spencer Rattler. Shough played 11 games, but he only started about halfway through the season. He pushed really good volume with over 2,000 yards. He showed rushing upside as well. Things, again, should point up. And I do like Shough more than consensus. I just want us to exercise some caution because I didn't really see a struggle, so you kind of worry that he might be in line for a bit of a dip, so I am cautiously buying into a leap. And then Shedeur Sanders just needs to worry about retaining his job. Naturally, if he does retain his job, it would be a leap, right? Logically. New coach that actually likes him, new wide receiver one likely being drafted, but again, you gotta win the job first. Now, running backs are fun because we've got a lot of unique scenarios for year two leaps. Can Aston Jeanty make the big leap that makes him worthy of his lofty ranking? He is a borderline round one pick coming off of a year of being overdrafted by fantasy managers and disappointing primarily because of efficiency and consistency issues. A 3.7 yards per carry average is just not going to cut it, but he has got a new head coach and a new quarterback, which supposedly is Kirk Cousins. But as we all know, that's probably like a 4 to 6 game timeline, right, before they move on to letting the rookie start. And more importantly, he will have a new offensive line. The audacity of the Raiders' 2025 offensive line. Disgusting. Literally the worst. Literally the worst. There is nowhere to go but up. And the Raiders have already started making those clear upgrades and investments. Jeanty was not the problem. He showed incredible ceiling multiple times despite the team's ineptitude. And he has the added benefit of that receiving upside. The Raiders have stated that they will add an additional back because they don't want all of the workload on Aston Jeanty. Don't panic about that. Mike McDaniel did give us the most annoying split ever last year in Seattle, but the Raiders' current backup running back simply cannot exist. We knew they were going to add a running back, and it's not realistic to expect Aston Jeanty to play upwards of 80% of snaps every single week. So we are still in on a year 2 leap for him. But are we in on a leap for Omarion Hampton? Yes, ish. There was zero issue with Hampton as a talent last year, just an issue with usage from his offensive coordinator. That man is gone. I have 100% confidence that Hampton will get a minimum of 12 carries every single game. And with a healthy offensive line, we would see an improvement in efficiency as well. My only fear here is that if Mike McDaniel opts to use additional backs, as he has done so very consistently for years. Devon Achane's 238 carries last year was the most that we have seen under his tenure in Miami to a single back. But that could easily just be a personnel issue. Even before Achane, it was just Raheem Mostert, right, that he was working with. Omarion Hampton is a big workload type of back. I could easily see him handle 300 carries plus receiving work this year. And with increased goal line opportunities, with a better offense, things are pointing upwards. So all the pieces are there for Hampton to thrive. Even if we get supplemental work, which I think we do, even if we get supplemental receiving work from additional backs, a natural leap for Hampton does make sense. Now, TreVeyon Henderson is a tough case to crack. We knew heading into the season that rookies under Josh McDaniels don't exactly have favorable outcomes, but the most concerning issue is that we saw him extremely minimized in the offense during the Patriots' postseason run, which was peculiar because we saw extreme upside from him during the season. Overall, it was a really good season, right? I mean, there's nothing to complain about here. Over 900 yards. Over 900 yards on just 108 attempts, a 5.1 yards per carry, 10 total touchdowns, 20th overall running back in half PPR. That is a solid rookie season. But to make a leap off of that, he has to overtake Rhamondre Stevenson and eliminate him. And I worry that's not going to happen. Stevenson is one of Josh McDaniels' guys from his previous tenure. He drafted him. He played him a decent amount his rookie season. I do not think Rhamondre is going to go away. And by all accounts, you would think, because TreVeyon Henderson factually outproduced and outperformed him, like looked better, that he would be able to do that. But I just don't know if we will. When it came down to clutch usage, they leaned on Rhamondre Stevenson. And it is glaringly obvious that the pass blocking is a major concern for Henderson. And if he cannot improve on that end, he will have the same issue that he had this season. Sadly, I don't see a leap coming unless there's an injury to Rhamondre Stevenson. I just kind of see a repeat of what we saw last year. RJ Harvey, we talked about a ton and talking about the Broncos a lot this offseason with all of the changes, not for the better, that they have made. The Broncos' backfield is shaping up to be an extremely unappealing committee that is literally just a repeat of what we saw in 2025. So sadly, we're going to have to sell on a leap for RJ Harvey. Dobbins will likely handle the early down work, get some touchdowns, but his lack of involvement in the pass game gives him a mediocre ceiling. On the other side, RJ Harvey, explosive trades, red zone efficiency, cool, we like to see it, but the touches are an issue, making him touchdown dependent with an extremely high ceiling and a low floor. You're essentially drafting a headache where you're waiting for the J.K. Dobbins injury just for Harvey to become a reliable starter, but then we've got the added issue of the Broncos possibly drafting another running back, which would just mean that if Dobbins goes down, Harvey might be looking at another committee. It's tough to trust. And then finally, Bashal Tutin. We are buying into, naturally, logically, a leap for Bashal Tutin. We talked about this one a lot as well. It's very simple. We do have to wait until we see what type of running back they add in the draft. If we get the addition on day 2 of a very high upside pass specialist back, we would potentially have a capped upside here for Tutin. But he is in line to be the clear lead back and the goal line back. We talked about it based off his stats. It makes a ton of sense that he would be the preferred goal line option. So we'll naturally see a leap to a low-end RB2, but he would have higher upside if he can consistently contribute in the pass game. And again, Cam Scadaboo just has to make it past the addition of Jeremiah Love, and Quinshon Judkins does have to make it back from that awful injury and back to his normal usage. Now, wide receivers, there are 4 guys that we want to look at. Tetairoa McMillan is the easy, safe leap. He established himself as the clear wide receiver 1. Any wide receiver that they draft will be a Xavier Legette replacement, i.e. somebody who will just be more productive with those targets, more reliable, right? And I love Jalen Coker, but obviously their roles do not conflict whatsoever, him and Tetairoa McMillan. There have been a lot of mock drafts that have them taking Kenyon Sadiq in the first round. I don't love that as a fit. It makes me a wee bit questionable because then you worry about if we get some red zone usage taken away and potential of touchdowns being capped for McMillan. That would be the only issue here. But McMillan had a very successful season. 70 receptions, 122 targets, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, very respectable, and there is a higher ceiling. Now that ceiling is dependent on the continued development of Bryce Young and the Panthers allowing him more volume, but we talked about this before. It's not a major concern because when Young was allowed to throw for volume, he did so very well. So it's not a skill issue. It's just opening up the offense with more development. So McMillan is a prime leap candidate. Whereas McMillan was the safe leap candidate, Emeka Egbuka is the massive, ceiling, risky leap candidate. His back half of the season fade was extremely concerning, but I'm less concerned about it because it's not as if another receiver was out there thriving, right? While Emeka Egbuka was struggling. This is not like a Brian Thomas Jr. Jacksonville situation. No. The entire Tampa offense was a hot mess closing out the season, and I think it was a offensive coordinator, and Baker Mayfield issue, unfortunately. Yes, Emeka could have been better, right? But the entire team was off. Emeka should move forward as the wide receiver 1 of the future, and we know his ceiling is excellent. Last season's hot start is not a fluke. Then we have Luther Burden. Burden's season obviously got off to a very slow start due to limited usage early on. But he came into his own in the back half of the season and showed some upside, particularly one very impressive game against San Francisco. But we do want to temper our expectations. A leap is definitely happening, for sure, because the man had 40 receptions and just under 700 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is absolutely going to outproduce that if he stays healthy. But the true breakout here was Colston Loveland. We'll talk about that in a second. And between Luther Burden and Rome Odunze, either one of them could realistically be the wide receiver 1. Profile-wise, Burden would have the greater chance of being a volume receiver, with Rome Odunze suffering from the high average depth of target, which does make him more of a boom-bust candidate than a consistent wide receiver 1. So yes, year 2 leap for Burden, but the leap is to a top 24 receiver, not like a top 12 receiver. You know, I said 4, but technically 5. 2 more guys that I want to talk about here. Other potential leaps include Matthew Golden potentially leaping with the exit of Romeo Doubs. We have seen wide receiver by committee for the Packers for what feels like way too many years. But the natural wide receiver 1 should be Christian Watson. But there's room for a volume play here still, and Golden can operate as more of a possession receiver off of Watson's extreme deep threat capabilities. And Golden did not have any serious issues last year. He actually graded out very well. He just wasn't really targeted that much. So if Dobbs' exit can open up opportunities, we could see more movement here from Golden. There is also Jaden Higgins, who 100% should leap, but only as much as you can leap as a clear wide receiver 2. Higgins definitely separated himself from the other receivers outside of Nico Collins. We do have to see if there will be maybe a return of Tank Dell or an additional receiver, who knows. But ultimately, there is a capped ceiling here, and there's only so much that he can leap. Now, tight ends. We have talked about all of these tight ends basically in previous videos, so I'll keep it kind of short here. Of course, you know we are buying into leaps for Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren. The exit of DJ Moore opens up the door for Colston Loveland to continue that insane into 2025. His upside is right up there with Trey McBride and Brock Bowers. He might just be the weapon to own in Chicago. And also, we talked about this a lot in detail regarding Tyler Warren, the exit of Michael Pittman as well. So these 2 guys, players exiting, going to open up doors. The exit of Michael Pittman will unlock touchdowns for Tyler Warren. And there's a good chance that he might not just be the second look of the offense, but also the first look of his offense as well. Now, sadly, we are selling the leap for Harold Fannin Jr. Not a big negative. I just think that last year was a very realistic expectation, rather than us expecting a leap here. David Njoku was phased out, really, throughout the season. We saw heavy usage of Harold Fannin Jr. from the get-go. It's not the same thing as Colston Loveland. So there's not a massive usage to be unlocked with the exit of David Njoku. And at this point, it is very clear that the Browns are taking a high-end wide receiver 1 in the draft. Plus, they still have that quarterback issue. So I'm not saying that there's going to be a bust here, but I'm saying that there's not going to be a leap coming because the 2025 output is essentially the expectation for 2026. And then we are not buying into, or selling really. We're not really buying or selling a leap on Gadsden. The good thing is that we will see an uptick in volume. The bad is that it's still going to be an extremely crowded group of pass catchers, and he is likely, unfortunately, the third look at best. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can find me across all social media platforms at It's Tara Time, so make sure that you're logged in, tune in, subscribe, turn on notifications, and all that good stuff. We are heading in strong after this draft. Lots of content coming your way.